Everybody is looking for a mentor. So go out there, be a mentee, be a mentor. Broader impacts is so personal.
The impact is usually not going to happen immediately when you do it, but something ought to change as a result of the work that you're doing.
I want to learn how to tell my story and motivation to serve the community.
To learn more about what is the surrounding about a research topic.
How we can partner in transforming STEM.
What are broader impacts? What does the term even mean to you specifically?
You don't have to reinvent the wheel and create these activities on your own.
How can I change that? What could I do to make it so that there's so much more?
Hi everyone. This October, I had the honor of speaking on a panel about transforming STEM research into broader societal impacts at the SACNAS NDiSTEM Conference in Columbus, Ohio. We got permission to share this inside look into the panel and a recording of the session itself with you. Let's get into it.
We're so grateful to have all of you here today. Broadening the impact of STEM is very important. I am here because I have a passion for connecting society and science. What are broader impacts? What does the term even mean to you specifically? So I see ripple effect out into the community, people outside our direct network, wider scale, connecting the work to people outside. Ooh, what's known with the unknown, all of STEM and outside community, how science impacts more than just itself, sharing knowledge with the greater public, making sure everybody feels that they belong, beyond our imagination. Wow, interdisciplined and intersectional. These are beautiful responses. Essentially, I gathered us here today so that we can talk about making impacts beyond the lab. We write papers and we have patents and we do publications and that sort of thing. And that work is very valid and important for advancing the boundaries of knowledge for humanity. But one thing that I feel like I wish I had more experience doing in my graduate training, thinking about how I can take the work that I'm doing in the lab and connecting it to my community and to my society. I'll talk more about this in a minute, but I really felt like my experience in academia required me to bleach who I was and to dissolve the boundaries around who I am as a person and who I am in STEM. And so I would love to just invite you, the way the conference is intended to invite you, to find a way to integrate who you are, the communities that you represent, the identities that you stand for in every aspect of your work. Because simply by existing, you are resisting. So we'll start with that. So of course, it's not one size fits all, and that's the best part of broader impacts, because you get to bring who you are to the table, your unique gifts, and why your creator put you here. You're welcome to define that however you like. I'm going to tell you a story that I was telling Frankie this morning at breakfast. How many of you are familiar with what a Bratz doll is? Aye, a good amount. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, they're these sassy little dolls who wear fashion clothes. And my daughters last Halloween wanted me to dress like a Brat doll with them. And so I thought, bet, I'm gonna find a really cute outfit at our local thrift store. And I found this little getup that I decided to wear. It's a jumpsuit. I thought leopard print is high fashion, totally for me at least. And so it was $5, so I was like, let's do this. I put it on and it just barely fit, so I was like, yeah, this will be a great outfit for Halloween. We're in the car on the way to go trick-or-treating at the wealthy people neighborhood where they give out the whole size candy bars. We're in the car and we're rocking out, and all I did was lean forward. This is karma, by the way, for all of you who are married. Do you ever lean forward to check the odometer when your partner's driving? Okay, I do, because sometimes he goes a little fast, and so I was leaning forward to see like, how fast are we going? And me and my nosiness, I just heard a pop. It was a bust right through that outfit. It was a good year, y'all. I ate good that year. And it bust in a perfect way. I thought it was so funny. And blowing out that costume and then having to go to Walmart with my husband's shirt tied around my waist because I wasn't about to be on that meme of people at Walmart. I got myself like a $10 set of ghost pajamas. And I've been thinking about this moment a lot during this conference because a lot of my graduate school experience kind of felt like squeezing into something that didn't fit me. It felt a lot like trying to be something I wasn't, trying to speak in a way that I don't speak, trying to write in a way that I was unfamiliar. And at a certain point, I just had to bust it wide open. How many of you know a scientist who's also an entrepreneur? Hey! Okay, so now you can all raise your hands, because that's me. I decided to start my own company after serving in academia as an educator, a researcher, and an administrator for about 15 years. And I decided to create a business completely out of survival, completely out of necessity. I had uprooted my children 4 different times in my career, creating great instability in their lives and a disconnect with who they were as people. And I was asked to do it a 5th time for my most recent administrator position. And after really reflecting on it, I decided I don't want to move them anymore. I don't want to relocate anymore. I want them to have a home. And I'm willing to take on whatever that means, because there's always Uber. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll take on whatever that means. We'll live however we need to. I don't want to move anymore. So I decided to start a company by sending out a few messages on social media. It used to be called Twitter and LinkedIn, and I sent out a message saying, I'm desperate. I'm a mom, I have 2. I'm a single mom, and I'm their main provider. I need your help. If I can write a paper for you, if I can design a graphic for you, if I can do a study for you, whatever I can do for you, these are my skill sets. I'm a chemistry educator, I can do slides, I can revamp your curriculum, I can evaluate your tests and the equity embedded in your tests, I can apply critical theorems to your programs, I can do all these things. What can I do for you? And that led to the founding of Science with Impact. Essentially, what I do is I apply frameworks to help research centers measure, communicate, and scale their organizations in terms of broader societal impacts. Why research centers? Anybody have an idea of why? Yeah, that's exactly why. Who got money in this situation? Yeah. When you filter NSF grants by most to least, and you look, the centers get the most money. Now, granted, they also have a lot of people to provide for, yeah? But I thought if I can go to where they have the most money, then they are expected to make the greatest impact. So what if I went to them and I figured out how do we do broader impacts at the $20 million grant level so that we can share those lessons and those wisdoms with everybody who's interested in doing broader impacts? Because in doing it at that high level, we can share ideas for everyone who's interested in this and how they can bring their true selves to impact society. So in that spirit, I share every single thing that I do and that I learn and every framework I develop, every strategy that didn't work as a podcast, through case studies, and as a newsletter. So I encourage you to connect with me, especially if you're curious about, wait a minute, you can do entrepreneurism in this space and people will welcome you in. Not always, but you can try, and I'd love to support you. So now I'm going to invite my colleague, Jennifer, to the stand.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Aleman. My background is in cell and molecular biology. I'm also Cuban and American. I am working at a primarily undergraduate institution in the School of Science Dean's office as science grant writer. A little bit about me and my background. I studied biology at a primarily undergraduate institution called the College of New Jersey, Central New Jersey. I finished my bachelor's there, and within there I was in an NSF-funded program to really encourage underrepresented students to pursue graduate degrees. So we were involved with research early on, did rotations, had this 3-year-long extended experience in research, and were encouraged to keep pursuing grad school. I took 1 year off to work as a research technician at Rutgers, and then I pursued my PhD in cell and molecular biology at UPenn. And some pictures from that experience are at the top. I had a really small lab. We were a fly lab, that's what they're spelling out at the top there. And I made it through, but some pictures on the bottom and memorable experiences I have were through my SACNAS chapter involvement at UPenn in grad school. So our speaker from this morning, Kevin Alisea, he was the founder of the UPenn SACNAS chapter. So I was really lucky to be involved with that chapter, to attend my first SACNAS conference at that time, to be involved in the executive board there, to plan a regional meeting. And as I look back on my graduate experience, I think community was like a pillar. Couldn't have gotten through without community, and I found that community in my SACNAS chapter there. Moving forward to where I am now, I actually went back to where I did my undergrad at the College of New Jersey, and I work in the School of Science Dean's office in a cool position called Science Grant Writer. So I help faculty with preparing research grants, and I also do have more of a writing role for programmatic training programs to give students research training experiences. As I transitioned to this role, I really wanted to go somewhere where I was able to also have this high touch with students and still work with students. And I really wanted to make sure that I could still encourage students to keep pursuing STEM careers, just like I had that experience in undergrad. So I really wanted to find this position where I could create community amongst students and make sure that students could know they could come from a place like a public state school, primarily undergraduate, and go to an Ivy League school and get a PhD. So I was able to start a SACNAS chapter there at the College of New Jersey. And through my still connections with the graduate chapter at UPenn, was able to form this connection between the two, where the two chapters collaborated on these events, where I took my students from TCNJ and brought them to UPenn, and we hosted this day-long graduate research tour where the students got to spend a day, learn about what grad school is, what programs were available at Penn. This was specifically the Biomedical Graduate Studies program. And it was a really successful event. They toured labs, they spoke with students in the SACNAS chapter, they heard research talks from the students, they heard about life in grad school. This really high-touch connection, full-day program that was put on by graduate students, outreach to undergrad students. And we ran this event again in 2025 with the same SACNAS chapter collaboration, and we even expanded into including information about the chemistry program there as well. And the main point that I wanted to make with this student-to-student collaboration, it's a student organization, SACNAS chapter, that they were able to provide this really high-impact, high-touch experience that could encourage students to keep pursuing higher education degrees in STEM. In my role as science grant writer, I was actually able to use this experience, this student-to-student led experience, to show that our institution has a relationship with UPenn. It's authentic, it's actually student-led, and this grant that we were writing was an NIH T34 Bridges to Baccalaureate grant, so a research training grant. And I specifically put images, pictures from this experience into the grant, where saying, look, we're going to give these students in this research training program an opportunity to visit Penn. We're already doing these things. This is not a fake thing we made up to have this broader impacts checkbox on a grant. This is real, this is authentic, this is an existing partnership that already exists. So what I want to encourage you all to think about moving forward is to think about student organizations on your campus, like SACNAS. If you don't have a SACNAS chapter, consider starting a SACNAS chapter. And if faculty in the room, you're writing grants, think about partnering with student organizations that are already doing broader impacts work, and see how you can collaborate, if there are opportunities for you to budget for activities, broader impacts activities for these organizations. I encourage you to do that, and just think about, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and create these activities on your own. There are students leading these efforts and doing really great work. So I encourage you to think about that and reach out to students. Thanks.
My name is Austin Shelton. I'm a marine and environmental scientist. I grew up right on the beach in Guam and saw all the beautiful fish and corals outside my home and saw it degrading over time, and so that's why I wanted to study science to do something to fix that. Today I serve as the director of the University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant. Hafa good afternoon, everybody. All right, so when I think of broader impacts, I usually think about the future. I know that there's the definitions that many of you have probably written as well for grant applications when you're thinking about the requirements for your federal funders or other grant funders. But I guess what I try to do is think about the impact that the work or the activities that we're going to do is going to have. And so the impact is usually not going to happen immediately when you do it. But something ought to change as a result of the work that you're doing. And that's what will hopefully make it meaningful. And so I know that's what makes it meaningful in the work that I'm doing in marine and environmental science, and especially in island sustainability. It's about creating the future that we want to see. And so there's a lot of different areas of work that I get to do, but I just wanted to back up a little bit to share how I got into some of that. So I mentioned when I introduced myself that I grew up on a beach in Guam. And so that's a picture of my dad and I when he taught me how to, it's something that a lot of dads or a lot of families do with little kids. You teach them to catch these juvenile fish that come in seasonally, little trevallies. There's called EE in Guam. So we'd go out and catch those. And I really fell in love with the ocean at an early age. So my dad was always looking for more opportunities to spend more time out on the beach, and I probably saw it in a movie or a TV show that, oh, you can send messages to people through the water by putting a message in a bottle. So we went to our grocery store, and I remember getting a case of Snapple drinks, those glass bottle drinks, and every time I would drink it, I'd make sure to wash it and dry it out and put a little message in with my name and address. And after about doing this one summer, about 30 or 40 bottles went out there. I had 4 pen pals from the Philippines. And so that's 1,800 miles west of, but what was really cool about that was that became my first lesson on how I was connected to the rest of the world from a very small island in the Pacific. And one of the big things that Vanessa asked me to speak about was networking. And so that was my very first lesson in that. Over time, I saw that those coral reefs behind my house, I wasn't catching the same size and quality of fish that I used to, that the coral reefs weren't as vibrant and beautiful as they used to be. So I thought that if I become a marine biologist, I will find some solutions for that. And so I've spent a lot of my career doing that work to try to solve some of those environmental stressors that we see. But then I realized, how come I didn't have any other classmates that wanted to become marine biologists as well? Guam actually has the most diverse coral reefs in the United States, over 350 species. Compared to Hawaii, there's about 100 species, in the entire Caribbean, maybe about 60. But I didn't want to be the only one doing that. And so when I came back home and had my PhD by that time and started working at the University of Guam, I found other colleagues who cared about this too. My colleague there, Dr. Cheryl Sangeza in the back. We started going after some funding opportunities, and then we created, now it's got to be over 300 positions for research opportunities for Islander students that never existed before. And so a lot of them are here today. Raise your hand if you're from Guam, everybody. So now we're getting really good at getting these training opportunities from high school, undergraduate, graduate student levels, early career fellowships. There's even a program with a couple of our students here called Navigating Home. When you're getting advanced degrees somewhere in the States, we have a way to pay for a one-way ticket back home and give you a salary for 1 year so we can get you back into the workforce and reduce the brain drain. In order to do that and to make it compelling to, like, the National Science Foundation, for example, you got to do it not just for your own jurisdiction or your own area, but do it in collaboration with others. So now we're doing that type of work with Puerto Rico, with the U.S. Virgin Islands, with other institutions where we can put our students into PhD bridge programs and things like that. That's how we get to show up as Islanders in full force, like we did last year with over, I think, 150 of us from those different islands, to make sure that we're accessing all of these really important opportunities in STEM on the national level. It took, I think, our students here at least 25, 26 hours to get here, flying from Guam to Hawaii, San Francisco, and eventually here. And so because of that distance, some people call it the tyranny of distance, we're not able to access these opportunities easily. And so as much as we can do to get everybody out here and put them on this pathway to success, then we have a much better STEM enterprise nationwide, because you have diversity of perspectives from these type of students who are on the front lines of climate change, seeing these diverse species, understanding solutions to the future that nobody else might be able to get. So that's why it's really important that we're all working together with all the different strengths from our different communities.
Hi, my name is Carmina Chavez. I'm an undergraduate at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. My major is in microbiology, but I have a minor in secondary education, and I'm really passionate about STEM education, and I'm excited to continue my work in broader outreach as well as just working with kids, students, faculty. Hello, everyone. I am a undergraduate, what I like to call super senior, at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. My major is in microbiology, and my minor is in secondary education, so I'm interested in high school teaching biology. And I want to first start off with talking about what broader impacts means to me. One of the biggest things that I think about when I say broader impacts is my own self-identity and what my identity means to me and what I'm passionate about and how I can bring that into a community and show equal passion to everybody and being able to express what I'm interested in to others and hopefully one day encourage that ripple effect. And so that's where I am going to start off with my mom. That's my mom in the top right. She grew up in very humble beginnings. She's no stranger to different government programs. She's the first in her family. She's a first gen, and she's also the first in her family of 6, I believe, to go to college. And she's one of the middle child. To give you perspective, she's in the middle. She went to Hartnell College in California, where they encouraged her to join different outreach programs. Her philosophy was, if I'm taking something from the community, I'm going to give it back. She did all these community outreach, and she eventually got encouraged through these programs to continue her bachelor's, where she graduated from UNLV as well, and then she is now a data scientist. And so her teachings of being true to who you are, as well as just giving back to that community, just remembering where your roots come from, I took that and put it into my own journey of my undergrad. And so I started off with not really knowing what I wanted to do, and then through networking, I found a lab, Dr. Eduardo Robledo's lab, where they're primarily all Hispanic, and they all do microbiology-based research. And I love it. It's one of my favorite labs. I hold my heart dearly to them. And I realized, oh, there's not a lot of Hispanic labs out here. Like, how can I change that? What could I do to make it so that there's so much more? And so one of the ways was through SACNAS or other different types of conferences where they are heavily based off of diversity. And I loved it. I loved the networking. I loved talking to other people. Everything about it was awesome. And I was like, okay, this is great. So what would be an even bigger audience that I can target? And somebody suggests, what about high school students? And so I started thinking about high school and elementary school and middle school. And so that's where I am at now, is just bringing into that the even bigger audience, or audience that doesn't really know much about science yet. And so I've been doing a lot of different community programs, community outreach, and one of my favorite jobs right now, I work at the DRI, or the Desert Research Institute in Las Vegas, specifically in their STEM education department. And so we do a ton of different outreach towards kids, and so we build curriculum for kids based off of different STEM programs, STEM things, primarily engineering. And then we also do different tabling events where we bring our activities to the kids, and we specifically focus on Title I because that's where most of the broader impact, I think, is like very critical. And as an undergrad, I think it's awesome. I think I found my passion in terms of just wanting to make sure that nobody's forgotten. Other fellow undergrads, don't be afraid of talking to people and talking to kids. Please don't be afraid of talking to high schoolers or middle schoolers, because I know middle schoolers can be intimidating, but trust me, like, they may look like they're not interested, but in reality they are interested, for sure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Frankie Antillon. I have a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biophysics. I am a first-generation student. My parents didn't finish high school. I'm the first to finish high school and college. I am extremely passionate about helping other students like myself navigate this unknown space when your family has not navigated it themselves. All right, y'all, I'm coming from Texas A&M University, so we're gonna start with an A&M tradition. I'm gonna say howdy, and then with your chest, I'd like you to say howdy back, all right? Howdy. Howdy. Perfect. All right, hello, everybody. We've heard a lot of different perspectives today about broader impacts and how there is this rippling effect and how we can help our communities. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about broader impacts at a more personal level, because for me, broader impacts is extremely personal. I told you when I introduced myself, I'm a first-generation student. I had no idea when I was finishing high school that I was going to go to college. It was something that my father had always pushed, go to college, go to college. And I'd say, how are we going to pay for me to go to college? And so I never thought it was realistic. But I applied to 3 schools and I got into 2. I picked one school just based off of the one other person that I had known had gone to college, had gone there. And I thought if they can do it and they can go to that college, I can too. So then I had to figure out a major. And I looked at the list and I said, okay, if I'm spend 4 years of time, effort, and money, I'd pick something that really challenges me. And so I picked chemistry because for me that was really difficult. And I was so lost and scared. And my first day of university, I think that was so apparently clear that I was just terrified of what I was getting myself into, having no one in my family had gone to college. It was so apparent that on my very first day of university, I met Dr. Kathleen Weaver. And my first day, she took me under her wing and she never let go. And it is because of her and her mentorship and her guidance that I am talking to you all today. If it weren't for her, I would not be here today. And so mentorship is a huge stone and it's a huge rock in my life. And I have had the privilege now of personally mentoring over 30 students on a very personal level. And I like to teach my mentees things, but my mentees also teach me things. I am constantly learning, I am constantly evolving, and this is the broader impacts that I am passionate about, this ripple effect. I am teaching them how to navigate the system that nobody taught them how to navigate. They're still teaching me how to navigate this mentorship role that I've taken on. And so if you don't have a mentor, find one. I will be your mentor. If you need me to help you navigate this space in any aspect, even if it's to jump on a Zoom call and talk about your day because you feel like you don't have anybody to listen or to hear your story, I will sit there and I will listen to your story. If you want to be a mentor, go out there and find somebody. Introduce yourself. Everybody is looking for a mentor. So go out there, be a mentee, be a mentor. Broader impacts is so personal. And so I'm really encouraging you all to put yourself out there, whether it's mentee or mentor, because it has a huge effect. I am so proud of my students and my mentees. Dio Benny is now a post-bac at the NIH. Maite just graduated from her PhD program. I met her last year at SACNAS and she was like, I want to graduate, I'm ready. I'm not sure how to navigate graduating. And now she's graduated and we're working on finding her a job. Daniel is now at medical school. I had the honor and privilege of being his TA. Mackenzie was an REU student in my program this summer, and her and I have just been working on her personal statement for graduate school. And these people are going to go live on and spread the message and a ripple effect. So while the mentorship is personal, the broader impacts are going to continue as long as they keep going on and doing the amazing things that they do. And so what I hope to leave you all with is that broader impacts is so personal. Go find a mentee, go find a mentor. I'm around, come talk to me. If you don't want me to be your mentor, I'll connect you with somebody that maybe is more your speed. Whatever I can do, if there's something I can do to serve you all, I'm here to serve you all. So thank you so much for your time and for being here.
I would like to do a Q&A session with all of you. If you have a question or even just an idea that you want to share, a challenge that you have for us to think about.
My question is, I just wanted to know, how do you deal with situations as a mentor where maybe you were planning something with your mentee or you guys were working towards something and maybe it fell through due to circumstances that you couldn't control.
Yeah.
And sometimes things don't happen the way you plan it to, right?
Yeah,
and it's really
absolutely.
disappointing for me as a friend that something didn't happen, and sometimes it affects me where I'm a bad friend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You don't feel that as a great mentor.
No, but I do.
I guess navigate through those feelings and navigate through that challenge as a mentor.
Yeah, mentorship is very hard. I just encourage you all to go become a mentor or a mentee, but it comes with challenges, right? All of those individuals that I showed that I've mentored, we have gone through so many challenges. Maite, to be specific, she wanted to finish from her PhD and she had this timeline in mind, and sometimes the timeline changes and it's outside of her control, and she finished, right? We did it even though there were challenges. But the thing that you should learn as a mentor is how to pivot and how to stay positive. One of the biggest things you can learn is how to pivot. How do we keep going even when everything fails? How do you stay positive when everything fails? You just don't give up. And it's hard. It's not always easy. I have my mentors who then help me get through those feelings of failure, but they're not moments of failure. When things don't work, I feel like it all works out the way it's supposed to, truly. Today, I met a wonderful student who is here, and he applied to my REU program and unfortunately did not get in. But talking to him today, it worked out in the best way possible for him. And hopefully I'm not just putting words in you, but he's now doing incredible, amazing, successful things. He's right there. Here, raise your hand. Yeah. And I told him today, I was like, wow, I feel like I missed out on all the incredible things that you are as a human. I'm sorry, but I'm so happy to hear that everything else worked out for you. So how can I serve you now? And I'm always there for you. So it's not a failure. You just pivot and you keep going and you keep providing support. Don't give up. Grit.
How do you generate spaces where like your students, mentors and mentees feel safe to actually communicate with each other? Specifically with, let's say, what's going on in the administration at a lot of universities to shut down a lot of like spaces to like conversation not to happen. So how will you go about making those spaces to connect mentors and mentees and make them feel safe in a way that they can talk to each other about multiple issues?
So when you run a company, and when you interface, I also mentor. There are 34 trainees, graduate students, and postdocs underneath the Center for Molecularly Optimized Networks. They're my biggest client. I spend the most time with them. One of those things about creating safe spaces is that you yourself have to be a safe space for yourself. You can't create safe space if you yourself are talking bad to yourself. I don't know if you've ever heard your inner voice go, God, I look hideous today. Oh, I'm so stupid. I messed that up. The other day I closed my own hair in the car door. And I was like, I'm so dumb. Why do I even have a PhD? I can't even close a door. And then I had to stop and go, hey, you're not being a safe space for you right now. So that emotional intelligence, that's not something that we're taught. Most of us were not modeled that. I would say, at least if your raising was a lot like mine, it might have been focused on survival. What do we need to eat this week? What do we need to focus on making money so we can survive? Where's the emotional intelligence in that? When you're fighting for survival, there's usually not a lot of safe spaces. So if you are in a position where you can afford to take the time to invest in your emotional intelligence and to create a safe space within yourself, I highly encourage that you do that, because there are no safe spaces in you if you can't.
Thanks for the session. This has been wonderful. I'm learning so much today throughout the conference. I just wanted to add, telling your own story is such a great way to bring anybody and everybody into your science, whether it's a personal story from your science or even something about how you got to where you are. One of the things that I did as a broader impact for some NSF grants that I've had was I created a YouTube channel. I actually started in COVID when I was alone at home. I'm a geoscientist, so it's called Every Rock Has a Story. It's for kids. It's for elementary school kids. When I was starting that YouTube channel, it was at home alone at COVID with a bunch of rocks and a laptop. And it was great, it was well received. But when I came out of that, the first thing that I realized was that I wanted to engage students with identities that would be familiar to them, to all students. And in that first season of Every Rock Has a Story, all I did was perpetuate this as what a geoscientist looks like. We heard yesterday from Asmat Berhi on stage, the geosciences are the least diverse of all the sciences. So when we came out of COVID, all these episodes have co-hosts, and so they're telling geoscience stories, rock stories, but it's their stories. And that's been very useful in this work. I'm still recruiting and looking for new co-hosts, but I think whether it's through an episode of this, something you do yourself on YouTube or online, informally, or just in the classroom, sharing your own stories is just so powerful and impactful.
Yeah, so I think that for the young scientists who are here, right, one thing to remember is that everything has its season, right, and this too shall pass. Right? So as you guys prepare, right, for your next spot or whatever it is, think about the future, not just 3 years from now, right, but think about it 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, where the world is going to be, right, and it's very hard to think about where that's going to be, but we can all point, right, our compass in that direction. And I think that we've lost a lot of money at our university because of our broader impact statements. And I think that we write a lot of grants right now, and we're writing our broader impacts, maybe with a lot of camouflage language. And it doesn't feel great, But this is what we have to do, right, in order to make sure that we have the money in order to bring people here to a conference like this where they can get the support and things that they need, right? So we might be a little bit smaller this year, right? But the importance is that we are here together in this room and talking about these things. So that broader impact is being felt, right, from grants that we wrote and that we got 5, 10, 15 years before. This is all grown from that, and it'll continue to grow. The other thing is that when you're thinking about how can I contribute, how can I help, there are things that don't cost a lot of money or any money at all, right? If you go out into the woods and help a group of kids learn the names of all the trees and all the plants, think about all those little scientists, right, that you just helped out. So a person who's thinking about STEM education is something that I think about quite a lot as well. I work with middle and high school CPS, Chicago Public Schools teachers, and I feel their impact every day in the classroom, right? And they have 6 classes that go through of 24 to 30 kids, right, just going through into their STEM classes, right? And maybe not all of them are going to become scientists, but a few of them are, right? So if they have you as a teacher, imagine the impact that they're going to have from that, right? So that's the broader impact that we continue to have and that you guys will continue to have.
I've had the opportunity to sit at a lot of tables related to funding and to consult with some of the top institutions in the United States about how can we continue doing the good work without flagging search terms. I'll acknowledge that the term broadening participation is still highly supported by the government, still fundable, and it still advances the work that we're trying to do. So broadening participation is one of those terms that you can lean on. My background is in applying critical theory research to deconstruct racism in chemistry assessments. So you can imagine my funding hasn't gone unnoticed in the current environment. And it's okay to seek out opportunities to broaden participation in STEM. And also acknowledge, just building off of what you said, you are our diversity, all of us together. Every single one of us has unique perspectives, unique paths. And we definitely have communities that are underrepresented in STEM. And this conference does such great things to help advance that. And so I hope you keep showing up and you keep beating your drum and you keep being noisy. And I know it's scary because it's really easy to be noisy in a chorus full of voices when we're all unified. It's a lot scarier to be noisy in a quiet room where you feel like you'll poke your head out and get hit. It's up to you to determine how safe you feel to either take that hit or to be quiet, because you do got to live another day to play the game, yeah? So you take the risks if you need to. It's also okay to take safety when you need it, because the goal is to live for another day, yeah? And if you can take those hits so your students don't have to, I highly encourage you to take it every time. Because I'll tell you, as somebody who gets their funding through my own business, I will take all the hits. You send me stuff to say and I'll say it. You send me something that you need heard and I will amplify it, because they can't hit me right now. Fancy hotels, how they have the water that they infuse with fruit. Science, I feel like often is just the water, right? And if you want to broaden participation or broader your impact in STEM, I highly recommend that you find the fruit that's unique to you and you put that in your water to infuse it. My fruit for me is visual design. Graphic design is one of my passions. I think if you can communicate it simply and visually, that you actually understand it. And so it's really important for me to get down to the kernels of truth so I can communicate it visually. I'm learning animation because I think that could be an inviting way to bring people into the abstract science that is chemistry. Find your fruit. You have unique gifts that the Creator gave you. You have unique ways of communicating and you have your unique story. You can't go wrong with those aspects. So infuse your water and get fancy, yeah?